The remote reefs of the Pacific used to provide some sanctuary for sharks, but now even there the illegal fishermen are coming.
Reefs that used to be protected throughout the Pacific, used to be protected by their remoteness and their difficulty to get to, are now having illegal fishermen visit them routinely. Some of the reefs I've just been to in Palau, in fact, have been stripped of all their sharks.
And it's the same story right around the world. In the past 3 decades, global shark populations have plummeted by as much as 90% in some areas. The sharp decline has been blamed on the shark fin trade.
A lot of these sharks are dragged out of the water. They're still alive and their fins and tails are hacked off. The shark flesh is virtually worthless. The shark fins are worth hundreds of dollars a kilo.
There's a massive demand out there and a growing demand for shark fin, and that means that the fishing pressure on sharks just keeps increasing, and these animals simply can't take that sort of fishing pressure.
Hong Kong is the hub of the global trade in fins.
Hong Kong actually is the largest entrepreneur. Actually, every year, 50% of fin trade come from there. By FAO, Indonesia was the largest producer for fin, and followed by Singapore.
The shark fins are used to make the expensive delicacy shark fin soup, which is popular in Chinese restaurants around the world, but its biggest market is in China itself.
Shark fin soup's been around in China for millennia, but in the late 17th century there was an emperor who codified the laws for banquets, and he basically said that the first course you should serve in any good banquet should be shark fin soup. And you serve that because it's a rare commodity and it shows your guests you have wealth. Now, in a China with a growing middle class, there are a lot of people out there who want to display their wealth, and they want shark fin soup.
WildAid says the shark fin trade has doubled since the early 90s and is now thought to be worth close to $1 billion. To supply that surging demand, tens of millions of sharks have been killed each year. WildAid says the total figure is closer to 73 million sharks annually. In 2006, it launched a major campaign across China to increase public awareness of what goes into making the famous soup.
Most people didn't know the shark fin is from the shark, because in Chinese language, shark fin literally translation is a fish fin, so they didn't even know the fin from shark.
The organisation enlisted the help of the biggest sporting names in China to help spread their message. Not only did the campaign manage to turn around public opinion, but it now seems to have swayed the views of those right at the top. Earlier this month, the Chinese government announced it would ban the serving of shark fin soup at official banquets within 3 years. The surprising move has been applauded by conservationists, but criticised for its apparent slow implementation.
I don't know why it takes 3 years to implement that ban. It can be done now. Let's do it now. But it's a step in the right direction.
In Australia, shark finning at sea, where the sharks are caught, their fins cut off and their often live bodies thrown back overboard, is illegal. But Mick Dowers says flaunting of the law is not uncommon.
You have to land the whole shark, fins attached. But the problem is, as soon as you step foot off the boat, as soon as you're on dry land, you can have as many shark fins in your possession as you like, basically no questions asked. And the problem with our law is that there's a very small risk of apprehension, detection, prosecution and successful conviction of shark finning at sea.
And then there are the illegal fishermen coming in from neighbouring countries to fish Australia's northern reefs. In 2004, Dr. Mark Meakin travelled with customs officers to assess the impact of overfishing in the north.
at the height of the problem in the mid-2000, around 2007, Coastwatch was seeing 4,000 boats, shark fishing boats, a year off the northern Australian coast. A sighting rate of about 22 boats per day. It was a massive effort.
The boats, he says, were mostly coming from Indonesia. 5 years later, he says the boats have all but stopped because the reefs have run out of sharks. But the shark fishing elsewhere hasn't. Indonesia is considered the biggest shark-taking country in the world and one of the biggest suppliers of fin.
The Indonesian government has the intention to stop the shark finnings from the areas. But the Indonesian government is now still looking for scientific information. What would be the impact and how should they do the sharks, to ban the shark finning for the countries like this?
Until those laws are put in place, there's no restrictions on what or how much is taken. Ketut Sajana Putra from Conservation International in Indonesia has been working with the government and local communities to encourage shark fishermen to find other ways of making a living from sharks.
There are other ways to do a kind of taking benefit from sharks. For example, by creating an ecotourism for sharks actually in Indonesia.
In Raja Ampat in West Papua, a shark sanctuary has been set up where you can dive with sharks, but even that has been targeted by shark poachers. WildAid's message is a simple one. When the buying stops, the killing can too. Despite its win with the Chinese government, it has no intention of relaxing its campaign in China.
We are going to work more closely with government and also with consumers to build the educational campaign. We also hope to get more support from the business leaders, restaurant owners and hotels.
Last week it launched a new series of public service announcements, this time bringing on board the country's top CEOs to help spread their message.
没有买卖，就没有杀害。
But the lure of the increasingly valuable shark fin trade will be a hard one to give up.